Uh, okay. How is the volume?
Oh, it's good. I can hear you clearly.
There's
Okay.
Sachin. Okay. Where are you, Sachin? Not in Washington?
No, I'm in North Carolina.
Okay. And where are you, Jivantika?
Oh, I'm just at home.
Where home is? Lost you. Can't hear you. Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So where is home?
Virginia.
Virginia.
Falls Church. Yep.
Falls Church. Oh, next door. Okay. Good. So
Okay.
what do you want to do today?
So I'm already recording. So let me start. Can you see if I'm recording? Does it show up on your page?
It does.
It's in the corner
yeah.
recording. Yeah.
And I'm just gonna log out now. So I'm not in the recording since this is your interview.
Lights are better this way.
No.
What?
Yep, that's better. Okay.
All right. Bye. I'll just
Okay,
stop
Sachin.
my video.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me do speaker view. Actually, no. Okay. So hi. So I'm Javantika Day, and I wanted to ask you a couple questions to let people know about EduGirls and how everything's working with the pandemic response, etc. So first of all, what inspired you to start EduGirls?
Number of things. One was an accidental or visit to Vimukti, where I was quite impressed by what the managers, the hosts there, the leaders there were trying to do, dealing with girls living in the slums of Jaipur. And the other thing was that in 2012, there was a major publication by the UN about the Millennium Development Goals, and MDG 2 was all about education, and they had promised that by the year 2015 we will have universal primary completion, which means all kids would at least finish primary school. And in 2012, when they did some stock taking, they reported that 70 million kids were not even in school. And the more important aspect was that the most difficult kids to get to school and keep them in school were girls living in poverty. So some friends and my friends got together and we said, look, this cannot be a problem that cannot be solved. So let's work at it. And so we decided to try and do something about educating girls living in poverty.
That's very good. Do you plan on expanding EduGirls in different countries, or is it just India for now?
We are a global institution. We do have a focus in South Asia at the moment, only because the support base that we have, and also we are more likely to visit
India.
Places in South Asia, and personal visits are very important to stay in touch with the leaders of these schools. So at the moment, the focus is South Asia. We have Pakistan, Nepal, and 2 schools in India, and we will be doing more. We've had a very positive response from our donor base this year. Actually, an overwhelming response, way beyond what we were hoping for. And therefore, our plans to kind of take our approach and our model to new places is going to be now accelerated. So next year, we hope to adopt 1 or 2 more schools which are aligned with our vision.
That's very nice. I'm so glad that you guys are working towards helping all these girls get an education. Another question that I had was, how are you keeping in track with all the updates, with all the teachers and the students at Vimukti and your other schools? How do you know what's going on? How do you get updates day to day?
You know, given the connectivity we have nowadays, and of course we only have 4 schools, so we kind of have almost monthly meetings on Zoom with the principal and the managers at these schools, and our executive committee joins in, and we have an agenda. Partly because of the emergency of the COVID, we didn't do this. We used to do quarterly meetings, but now we are actually on monthly meetings because we're constantly adjusting our delivery to the circumstances that these girls find themselves in. So we stay in touch quite regularly.
Do you personally know any of the teachers there or the staff?
I know all the leaders. I know the principals. I have met many teachers because Jaipur is my hometown. So whenever I go to see my sister and family there, we interact a lot. Bangalore, I try whenever I go to India, I try to drop into Bangalore. I have not been to the school in Pakistan or in Nepal, but we have friends from my World Bank days who actually keep in touch with these schools, and when they are in Pakistan, they visit them. So we have actually one of the criteria we use in deciding where we'll be engaging with the school is our ability to either a board member or somebody that is close to us has an opportunity to visit the place. So that's why we're not yet in Africa, although the needs in Africa are quite big, because we haven't had friends or sponsors who come from that region. When somebody steps and they say, look, I want you to work in Kenya, and I assure you that I'll be visiting the school once a year, we will certainly consider that too.
That's okay, that makes sense. With all the pandemic response and how these girls are living, how do you provide daily rations to them? How did you get their tablets to them? How are all
when the lockdown came in March in India, our biggest concern was that the families, the parents were both daily wage earners typically, and they were out of a regular income. And when you are living hand to mouth like that, to put food on the table, you turn to the money lender, and the money lender will certainly accommodate you, but then you are in debt forever. So our biggest concern was that if the families hit financial ruin, the girls will be on the street and they will not be back at school. So initially our response was very simple. The school managements were also concerned like we were, and they took it on themselves. In case of Jaipur, they had a bus that Rotary had financed some years ago. So they used the bus to get the rations to the busties, and all the senior girls were coached and trained. So they kept track of delivering the rations to the family. In case of Kohat in Pakistan and in Bangalore, they actually announced that rations would be available on certain days, and mothers typically would come and pick their rations up and leave a nice thank you note, which motivated us all that we were doing the right thing. So that went on for 2-3 months. But once that phase was over, our big concern was schooling, because schools were closed for face-to-face learning. My grandkids, when they went to school, like Sachin, when his siblings went to school in September, they all had their county provided Chromebooks, and all the teachers had their software, and they were learning from day one. So what were our girls going to do? Because the school board exams were continuing. The better off kids in other schools had devices, had connectivity. Our girls living in these slums had nothing of the sort. And so we put together actually a 4-point program. First point of that was these tablets, which in October, all the girls have their own tablets loaded with the NCRT, the National Council for Education, Research and Training. They've certified some software, and which is grade specific syllabus linked software. So that is going on in Jaipur. But there were other concerns as well. First, the teachers had to now learn new ways of teaching.
Exactly.
And so we introduced an incentive program for teachers that they would be financially compensated if they actually get themselves fully on top of doing. Also concerned that there's always a pressure on the girls to drop out and help out, with some menial jobs that supplement the income. So we strengthened the program that we have to just give girls stipend for just being in school, so that the parents don't feel the pressure that the girl has to actually go out and work as a maid and bring some money home. And the fourth concern was that, a lot of these teachers that I got to know in Jaipur, they were actually becoming life coaches for these girls. They were in constant contact, and the girls would talk about all kinds of problems at home and otherwise. And that contact had disappeared.
Yeah.
So what we started was what we call a program of mentoring mothers. So educated mothers in the slums now get an honorarium, and they're assigned girls in the slums so that they are available to them for any kind of coaching, counseling, just to keep them motivated and listen to their issues. So these 4 programs are now underway. The cost of these programs are about $105,000 for 600 girls in Jaipur, and another $30,000 for the 150 girls in Bangalore. And we were so blessed when we had our gala in September.
Yeah, that was very promising.
Beta, we asked for only $250,000, and it was overwhelming. People left $450,000 on the table.
I know.
And it was so overwhelming, and we are so obviously motivated, but also grateful. We feel a great sense of responsibility now that people are putting this trust in us to kind of deliver on these schools, and obviously use the money carefully as we expand to new opportunity, new schools.
So are galas the most efficient way of your funding, or do you have any other ways?
This year we were so worried in April, May, whether we will even be able to support normal school operations. We tried everything. So we had a walkathon, which raised $12,000. I organized a golf tournament, raised $18,000. The Georgetown University South Asian chapter organized a program called Rangila, where girls from these schools had their dance performances. They raised $5,000. And we had somebody donated art pieces, so we had an auction. So we tried everything. Gala was obviously the biggest. 180,000 were raised at the gala itself. But all these small efforts added up to an overwhelming response that we feel now motivated that we have something going on which is of some interest to our donor community, and we are hoping that we can survive the pandemic and have a model by which we can continue to reach out to girls living in poverty, not just to get them in school, come, stay, perform, learn, and get into a job. And our commitment is all the way to the end, and we're hoping we can do more of that.
EduGirls would also be able to help these girls get into an actual stabilized job as well?
The goal is that they become financially independent. Now, some girls will get to that skill base, but might still decide to get married and be a very responsible housewife, and nothing wrong with that. But we want them to be in a position where they have the capacity to be financially independent. And that is the goal. And, we are committed to that outcome, not just be in school, not just finish high school, but actually get the skills, whether through college or whether through vocational training, that you can actually be financially independent.
For the EduGirls program, do you think there's a certain person you would like to credit for supporting you the most, or the person who pushed you to try your hardest and keep going?
I'm very inspired by the 2 ladies who founded, actually all 4 schools were founded by women.
Oh.
And Lavlina Sogani in Jaipur, and Rohini in Bangalore, and Seema Aziz in Pakistan, and my dear friend Acharya, what's her name? Those women inspire me a lot as to how each one had a different story which inspired her to move forward. But and actually what we have achieved is on the backs of people on the ground doing the difficult work.
Yeah.
We basically tell their stories to our donors and convince them that yes, money is being well used, the results are being achieved. But these four ladies who are involved in these 4 schools are truly my source of inspiration.
That's lovely. Did you ever think EduGirls would get to this big of a state where you could help so many people?
you start out, and all big things start small. And our first effort in 2012 was a living room conversation where people left $9,000 on the table. And this year was a true surprise, because we were very anxious in March, April, whether we would even be able to raise the 200,000 minimum we needed to keep the schools in operation. And I think this year we certainly got convinced that people like our approach of making sure the girls not just get an education but become financially independent. They like our approach of being very efficient. Only 6 to 7% of funds that we raise are used for overheads in terms of organizing the gala and things like that. And people like the fact that we publish our outcomes in a very very concrete way.
Yeah.
How many girls finish high school? How many got into jobs? What was the income in their jobs? I mean, the number is not very impressive at the moment because we want them to get into higher end skills and get better income. But we report on these kind of very concrete things. And people like the fact that we are tracking the girls all the way through, and we're reporting back on real outcomes as opposed to, some, any more abstract outcome. Let's put it this way.
Do you have any like big dreams or wishes for EduGirls in like the coming years?
Well, I do have two dreams, and they are getting closer to reality, but there's still work to be done. One is to have at least 2 or 3 schools which are truly points of excellence, where you don't have to tell a story. People go and visit and they can feel that this is, an extraordinary effort. And we're not there as yet. We are getting there, but that's one of the dreams. And the other one is for a larger community of development scientists who in 2012 said that the most difficult segment to reach is girls living in poverty. I'm hoping they will come to a realization that reaching girls living in poverty is not rocket science, and that it doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Of course.
It can be done if you have your mind made up that you want to do it. Jivantika, the issue is, the girls living in poverty, being the combination of poverty and gender bias creates so many obstacles that if you don't overcome all the obstacles, you will never break through.
Yes.
And our only mantra, what we call the 10 mantras, is that we will work on all the obstacles. And the trouble often government departments find is that they can do 3 things, but they can't do the 4th one because that is some other department. The good thing with non-profits is if the problem is, making sure the girl has glasses or she has a kidney problem, she gets an operation, we will do it. Right? So, and that's the one point. And the second point is it doesn't cost a fortune. For $1 a day, you can take a girl, keep her in school, motivate her, make sure the parents understand the value of this, and get her into vocational training, get her into college, get her into a job. Is not impossible. So my second dream is that people will stop saying that educating a girl living in poverty is an impossible project. It's a doable thing. Now the question is, how do you motivate society as a whole, which has 100 other priorities, to focus on girls living in poverty? That I have not cracked as yet. How do you motivate the leaders of a country who will go out and say, ladki bachao, ladki padhao, and all that stuff, and then still only 20% of your girls are finishing high school, and they don't feel a sense of responsibility to do something about it. Exactly. The contradiction between slogans and reality is so huge, and I don't know how to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
So
well, I hope like someday, we find out a way to like make people understand that it's not just about the fact that you're mentioning something, like you said, and actually taking action upon what you said should be done.
That's what I call a movement. When youngsters like you and just like on climate change, Greta got involved, and all the youngsters feel that we have to do something about climate change. Gun control, all the youngsters got involved to say, look, we can't put up with this kind of situation. Same thing has happened to ask the question, why is it? It's not rocket science. It doesn't come. Why don't we do it? So that kind of movement needs to be created. I'm hoping that you guys get involved and you get the word around and people will begin to feel that.
On Instagram, as far as I know, is doing pretty good because sometimes I'll take one of EduGirls posts and put it on my story, and then I'll see like a thread of my friends putting that on their story,
Really?
And, yeah, and it's like more people get to know about what we're doing. And on the other hand, there's like a set of people who like just talk about it, and again, they don't want to come to the meetings. I feel like it's just like, it's at least, we're getting that outreach. People are knowing what EduGirls is, and it's getting there. I feel like we could do it. We as a group, I think it's going to go somewhere. I think we're doing really good.
The best thing that has happened recently is that youngsters have got involved.
Yeah.
You guys and Sachin and Tessa, and Ishan, and there's so many others. I don't know all the names, but it's heartwarming to see how you guys are taking to it and you're getting the word out. One day, what we should try to do is get your parents onto a Zoom meeting, so they realize what you guys are doing,
Of course. My parents love the fact that, all us kids are involved in this and not just a bunch of adults. Like, we get to see the reality of all these things and, help out. So it's a really great thing that you started with all these women, it's really.
And, now all those girls in Jaipur have their own tablets. So, you could be able to you could do pen pal or whatever, Zoom pal or whatever, all kinds of possibilities are there.
Mm-hmm.
For my 75th birthday, I was so overwhelmed. They had 75 girls with their newly acquired laptops, all on Zoom, wishing me happy birthday. It was so moving. I cannot forget that moment.
Oh, that's
it
great.
was amazing to have, and they won't leave because they kept saying, okay, now we have to get on with the meeting, and everyone wanted to say happy birthday and then leave. It was amazing.
That's great. I hope you had a good birthday.
That was the highlight. I mean, I had a great birthday with my family. We went out to West Virginia and they sprayed me with all the dead leaves they saw in the forest, dry leaves that they found. But this was different and special.
Obviously. This is great. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hey, where did you learn all this Hindi of yours? It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.